And thank you so much for coming to our informational webinar today. The goal of this is to provide you with background about the second annual Community Benefits Grant, to talk a little bit about Calpine Energy Solutions, about Clean Power Alliance, and then we'll get into the grant goals, the parameters, we'll go through the application itself, key reporting elements, funding levels, and funding distribution. So my name is Gina Goodhill, and I am the Director of Government Affairs with Clean Power Alliance. You are also going to be hearing today from Christian Cruz, who is our Community Relations Manager. You will also be hearing from Joseph Cabral, who is our External Affairs Manager for Ventura County. And then you will also be hearing from Josh Brock, who's the Vice President of CPA Commercial Operations at Calpine Energy Solutions. So just some general housekeeping items. The webinar is going to be recorded and it will be posted on CPA's website along with the slide deck. We ask that you hold your questions until the end, as we might answer your questions along the way. And then finally, we ask that if you know others that are not part of this webinar and might not know about this grant opportunity, to please share the information with other interested organizations. And then I do want to just do a quick sound check because I've heard complaints in the past. Can people hear me? Yes, great, fantastic. All right, so with that, we can go to the next slide. And I will turn this over to Josh Brock, who again is the Vice President of CCA Commercial Operations at Calpine Energy Solutions.
Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining the webinar today. I'll also do a quick audio check. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome, seeing thumbs up, beautiful. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of who Calpine Energy Solutions is, and especially in the context of this particular grant opportunity. So we are a San Diego-based organization. We were founded on the principle of bringing choice to consumers when it came to their energy options here in California. We have a long history supporting organizations like Clean Power Alliance. We've been sort of in this space since it first started with the first community choice energy provider, Marin Clean Energy, back in 2010. And we've been supporting the industry since then. We are technical experts around utilities, energy, and data. And a big part of our mission is to reinvest in the communities that we support, working with our partners, specifically Clean Power Alliance as one of our long-term partnerships. So we're really excited to partner with them on this opportunity and look forward to working with many of you as we move forward through this. And with that, Gina, I will pass it back to you.
Great, thanks, Josh. Next slide, please. All right, who is Clean Power Alliance? So CPA was founded in 2017, so we've been around for almost 5 years, and we are the largest community choice aggregator in the state. What that means is that we provide clean energy at competitive prices to about 1 million customer accounts, representing close to 3 million people who are residential customers, commercial customers, government agencies, all across Los Angeles and Ventura. And the little lightning bolts down here show you the specific cities that we cover and that we serve power to, as well as unincorporated Los Angeles and unincorporated Ventura. We are the largest clean energy provider in the country. So that means that at this point, about 300,000 of our 1 million customers are served with 100% renewable energy. And by 2024, that number is expected to grow to about 3/4 of our customers, or about 750,000 customers. So it is a, not to toot our own horn, but it's a pretty significant accomplishment. And clean energy is first and foremost sort of why our communities founded us and what our overarching goal is. Next slide, please. So for those that are not quite as familiar with CCAs, a little bit more about that. So we are a joint powers authority that is formed by the 32 agencies that we represent. What that means is that each of the cities that are members of CPA have an elected representative from the city that has a seat on our board. And we're governed by these elected officials to really have the ultimate decision power around anything that we ultimately do. It means as a nonprofit that all of the money that CPA collects through rates is reinvested directly back into our communities. We don't have shareholders, we don't have bonuses. So really this is something that goes directly back into creating local programs and to creating opportunities for our communities to really feel the benefits of clean energy. With that, we can go to the next slide, Carla, and I'm going to turn it over to Christian Cruz, our Community Outreach Manager, to talk about the grant details.
Thank you, Gina. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you so much. So again, my name is Christian Cruz. I'm the Community Outreach Manager at Clean Power Alliance. So this is our second cycle of this grant. This year, Calpine Energy Solutions, in partnership with CPA, will be offering over $200,000 in funding. Eligible organizations must be 501c3 and serve CPA customers. Within the application, organizations can provide details about their proposals or projects. All proposals or projects must fall within the priority focus areas as noted. These are renewable energy research and planning, clean energy in disadvantaged communities, green workforce development, energy and environment education. Just please note that a proposal can fall within one or more of these priority focus areas as well. When describing your proposal in the application, please keep in mind that the selection committee will look for unique and innovative proposals that will advance these priority areas. If you are asking for funding to leverage other grant funding pots, please describe how this will help advance and or complete the project or initiative. CPA helped to create the grant guidelines. However, Calpine Energy Solutions is the final decision maker on the funding awards. Both organizations will work together to assess each application individually. Next slide, please. So I just want to go over a quick review of the timeline. So on August 1st, the grant application period opened. We have a very detailed webpage that provides valuable information on the grant, which includes the FAQs, the downloadable community benefits grant application, and other useful information. So I encourage everybody to please go to the webpage if you haven't done so already. Today, we are discussing the grant itself and answering any questions you have that will help in developing your application. After the webinar, as Gina mentioned, the recording will be posted on the grant webpage, so you can always reference that recording for the Q&A section of the recording. Please note that the application period will close at 5 p.m. on Friday, September the 16th, with application evaluations being conducted through Friday, October the 7th. Calpine Energy Solutions will contact awardees by Friday, October 14th, and the expected distribution of funds will be done by Calpine Energy Solutions by Thursday, November the 24th. Next slide, please. As previously noted, the goal is to have 501c3 organizations submit an application. We are looking for organizations to submit complete and concise applications. When submitting your applications, applicants can attach anything that will help the selection committee, such as pictures, graphs, project plans, etc., things that will support that application and the committee to make a decision. All applications must include organization's description and mission, no more than 500-word maximum. Cities and counties the organization serves, this can be multiple areas. Funding levels requested anywhere between $5,000 to $30,000. Funding categories and the proposal falls under, and it could be multiple funding categories. The proposal body should be no more than 1,000-word maximum. And then finally, the budget. We ask that applicants only use the budget form provided in the application itself. And again, as mentioned, awards will fall in the range of $5,000 to $30,000, but the final award will be made by the review committee. Next slide, please. So we asked our organizations convey to us how their work has been impactful within their communities. Things that will help the selection committee include any historical background, previous project implementation, community engagement campaigns, previous grant implementation, collaborative success stories, etc. Proposals can be a specific project or projects, or applicants can request funding for general operations. Please describe in as much detail as possible using benchmark or metrics how your proposal is aligned with the mission of CPA and the funding categories. Next slide, please. At this time, I will be turning the presentation over to Josh Brock, Vice President of CCA Commercial Operations, to speak on the grant reporting requirements. Josh?
Thank you, Kristen. So just walking through the reporting, we are trying to make this relatively low touch, but there are a number of things that we are interested in. So let me just run through that real quick. At roughly the 6 months mark on the post-award, we will be requesting a status report from organizations that receive funding. And those reports from you should include pictures and videos, a statement of the expenditures to date, and if applicable, a description of the progress of the project. And then at the 1 year mark, and sorry, let me take a quick step back. At that 6 months check-in, it's also helpful, similar to your application, to provide details such as pictures, anything else that helps us understand how the project's going, the implementation status of it, all of those things. So graphs, pictures, photos of the project site, if that's applicable, community meetings that have been held, those sort of details. At the end of the award period, so these are 1 year awards, we are seeking and we'll be meeting with awardees to do a post-award interview. The intent here is that we're not seeking a write-up. I think we've all done those before. Those can be valuable. But we also know that sometimes it's hard to it's hard to capture everything that you want to, especially in a concise write-up. So in lieu of that, we'll be meeting with each organization in an interview style format, and we'll be hearing from you on the accomplishment of the project, what happened, and we'll be looking for you to share pictures and videos and other details to hear about the project and its impact so far. Real checking in with Christian and Gina. Anything else you wanted to add to the reporting requirements there? Otherwise, I'll just move us to the next slide. No?
Go for it.
Okay, and just covering on the budget, same thing. We are trying to keep this at a relatively light touch, but what we are requesting from all organizations that submit a budget is you must use this template. You can ignore the column on the right. That is just for organizations that receive funding. So in your application, we are asking that you break it up into these 3 major categories so that we can understand the scope and scale of your budget. And to give you an idea as to why this is important to us is that we do anticipate a large number of applications. We did receive a number of them last year. We do have a larger pool of funding this year. But in cases where we might not be able to fund your full request, having this more detailed budgets helps us understand that if a partial funding might be possible and plausible given the project that you're trying to accomplish. So please do be sure to provide those details in the format that is requested here. I think that covers it for budget. Once again, Christian and Gina, just want to check in with you real quick to make sure there's no additional items you wanted to cover on the budget.
I think you got it.
Gina, I think I'm passing it back to you.
Fantastic. I am actually going to pass it, I think. Next slide, Carla, and we'll find out. To Joseph Cabral. Joseph, let me pass it to you. And Joseph is our External Affairs Manager covering Ventura County and the cities within the county.
Well, good afternoon. Great to see this many people on the webinar. Last year, we awarded 8 community benefits grants, and the grants were awarded to Active San Gabriel, Climate Action Santa Monica, International Indigenous Youth Council, the Clean Coalition, Columbia Memorial Space Center, the United States Green Building Council, El Concilio Family Services, and Special Service for Groups. So I'm going to share with you a couple of highlights from last year's grant recipients. El Concilio Family, next slide. El Concilio Family Services is based here in Ventura County. Its mission is to provide direct assistance and educational programs to underserved communities. Many of the families they serve are financially challenged and can't afford high energy costs. The community grant enabled El Concilio to provide outreach to residential customers and educate them as to ways they can reduce their electricity usage during periods of peak energy demand. So this is an example of a project that falls within the categories of clean energy in disadvantaged communities, as well as energy and environmental education. Next slide. The Clean Coalition's mission is to accelerate the transition to renewable energy and the modern grid through technical policy and project development expertise. Community grant funds were used to perform a microgrid feasibility study for a hub of Los Angeles County critical community facilities clustered within the disadvantaged and unincorporated East Los Angeles community. The study was intended to lead to increased community resilience by ensuring critical community services remain available during extreme heat events and grid outages. So this project falls within the category of renewable energy research and planning. So now I'd like to turn it back over to CPA's Gina Goodhill.
Sorry, I was on mute. So that's the end of the formal presentation. If you want to go to the next slide, Carla, I'm going to leave this up. So this is where we will go through questions now, but this is where you can email if there are additional questions that come up afterwards that you don't have a chance to ask during this webinar. And then it will be able to answer any questions at this email address. But with that, I see that there are already questions in the chat, so we can turn it over to first the typed questions, and then we can have, if you want to use the raise hand function for anything else that you can either type or you can use the raise hand function. So Christian, do you want to start with answering the questions?
Yes, I could field the first one. So this is from Alexander. The question is: the current application says 1,000 characters max, not words. Could you verify which one is correct? So it is 1,000 words will be the standard. The next question is: what are the associated metrics with these projects? Do you think you can take a stab at it?
And I'll just note, Alexander, thank you for that catch. We will change them. We'll make sure that that is correctly changed on the application. So yeah, thank you for that. So Brian, for the associated metrics, are you asking what the weighting system was that was used to track these projects, or can you expand on that a little bit more?
I was just curious about how many, Joseph shared a couple of, I'm just curious, they were like, did they service 1,000 people, or did they, that's all.
Yeah. So we don't have overall project metrics yet, but what we can take away from the projects is that we were looking for a portfolio overall that did a couple of things. So one, that served a geographic cross-section of our service territory. So if you look at the projects that were chosen, there is a real diversity in the communities they serve to make sure that most all of our service territory was touched. There was a lot of diversity in terms of the types of projects. So even the two that we highlighted, one was really a research-based project, and one was really focused on direct outreach about going door to door with communities who may not be aware of the benefits of clean energy. I think it was particularly low-income communities, and making sure that that was communicated. If you were to go through all the projects, you'd see there's additional diversity in terms of environmental education, in terms of workforce development. So that was really, I think, the main elements that we looked for was making sure that we were using a lot of different types of tactics to reach the broadest amount of people, but really also finding different opportunities. The other thing I'll note is that in the first grant, we were coming off a year of COVID, more than a year of COVID. And so it was really an opportunity to be able to fill in the gaps for organizations that may have seen their business model change due to COVID. And so to be able to provide additional support to allow organizations to continue doing the work that they were already doing to help serve our communities. I don't know if that answers your question, Brian. Okay, I saw thumbs up. Great. Any other questions?
I don't see any in the chat box. Are there any questions? Should raise your hand.
Ryan, using this event to promote your own program. I'm not surprised, but there you go. And yes, actually, so Brian was noting this clean air event, but I will say, I think the goal of this application is that it allows us to get as much information as possible while keeping it as simple as possible for the groups that are applying. The goal is not to create a laborious, time-consuming application process, and you'll note that the same is true of the reporting requirements. We really strove in creating this to make sure that we would be creating a program that had a high impact for a pretty high dollar amount, and that would lead to real benefits to our communities without asking for multiple reports that would have to be due, or complicated budgets, or even really, long